For today, we're going to learn how to conjugate regular AR verbs. Most verbs in Spanish are called regular verbs. Regular verbs are any verbs in Spanish that follow the same rules for conjugating as the others. The irregular verbs, such as ser, tener, gustar, those are the ones that don't follow these rules, and those are the only ones where you actually have to memorize their 5 conjugations themselves. Alright, usually with regular verbs, like we're going to learn today, there's one set of rules and you follow those for hundreds of different verbs. Now there are 3 different verbs in Spanish. We have AR verbs, which end in AR, ER verbs, which end in ER, and IR verbs, which end in IR. We're going to learn how to conjugate all 3 of those. Today we're starting with AR verbs. The first step for conjugating AR verbs is to take off the ending. You must know that every verb has 2 parts, a stem and an ending. The ending is always the last 2 letters. So the ending of AR verbs is always AR. For example, to take the ending off of hablar, you take off AR and you're left with the stem, habl. Like the verb mirar, if you take off the AR, you're left with the stem, mir. This is all part of that first step. No matter what verb it is, if it ends in AR, the first step for conjugating is taking off that AR. The second step deals with then adding the ending for AR verbs. And you have an ending for each subject pronoun. The endings for the yo form are o. The endings for the tu form are as. The endings for the el, ella, usted form are a. The endings for the nosotros form are amos. And the endings for the ellos and ustedes form are an. How this works, and I'll show you in a minute some examples, is after you've gone through that first step, after we take hablar and you take off the AR and you're left with habl, you would add the O to that to make hablo, which would mean I talk. Or hablas would mean you talk, etc. So you need to definitely memorize these endings. So when I think of the AR verbs, I always think of O, as, a, amos, an. And you need to memorize that too. O, as, a, amos, an. When you have those memorized, then it's easy to conjugate any AR verb. For instance, hablar is the verb to talk. When you take off the AR and you add an O, yo hablo means I talk or I'm talking. It can also mean I speak. When you take off the AR and add an AS, that matches the tu form, so tu hablas means you talk. El, ella, usted goes with the A ending, which gives us habla, for he talks or she talks or you formal talk. The amos ending goes with nosotros, so hablamos is we talk or we're talking. And the ellos, ustedes ending is an, so when you take off the AR and add an an, you're given hablan, which means they talk or y'all talk. Another example would be estudiar. Estudio is I talk, or I study, excuse me. Tu estudias is you study. Él estudia is he studies. Nosotros estudiamos is we study. And ellos estudian is they or y'all study. Alright, so you can do this with any verb that ends in AR in Spanish. You simply take off the ending and add the appropriate ending, either o, as, a, amos, or an. Now there are many different verbs in Spanish. A few examples of some AR verbs are listed here. You can conjugate any of these. For example, if I wanted to say I practice sports, I could say yo practico deportes. Or if I want to say we dance, we could say bailamos. If I wanted to say you sing, we could say cantas. If I wanted to say they cook, we could say ellos cocinan. So you can see it's easy to conjugate AR verbs. You just have to remember those endings. O, as, a, amos, and an.